value of presence is understanding that anything outside of the present is this construct that isn't actually real.
Hey guys, welcome to our SoulFam Podcast, where I interview space holders from all over the world. I'm your host, my name is Karolina, and I am the Connection Catalyst. I help spiritual entrepreneurs experience deeper connection with themselves, with others, and with the universe. Today on the show, we have Emma Marschall, the Breathwork Facilitator and the Embodiment Coach. Welcome to the show, Emma. How are you doing?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you.
Me too, because the topics that we're going to talk about are so exciting and I think they are so important as well. So, yeah, I cannot wait to dive into this conversation with you. And I would love to start with a little bit of a story. How did you become breathwork facilitator and embodiment coach? And what has inspired you? And maybe how did you start your whole spiritual evolution? Was it something that you were always into, or did it start at any specific point? I'm really curious to know.
Yeah. It's been a long journey for sure. I would say I was not always spiritually inclined or connected to myself. Um, yeah, most of my life I was just extremely insecure, disconnected, seeking validation externally. Um, yeah, not really knowing who I was or what I actually needed, kind of in a state of trauma and disconnect. And I was always triggered. My nervous system was always like firing. And in high school and college, pretty much I was just the party girl. I always was like wanting to get drunk, wanting to party, wanting to do the next thing. I never wanted to be alone. I always
Same
needed company. Yeah, I feel like I was afraid of myself, like of understanding myself on a deeper level. So throughout college, I started to get intuitive feelings like, this is not right for you. You're meant for more. Like, why are you doing this? Why are you seeking validation through men or through just anyone, really, anything, really? And I was super, super fortunate to get to study abroad in Sydney, Australia, my junior year of college. And that was my real taste of traveling alone. I ended my program and then went and lived in a hostel for a month by myself. It was a super spiritual, hippie vibe hostel in a beautiful, beautiful part of Australia. And that was kind of the catalyst, I would say, for my spiritual journey. That's when I started doing yoga and meditating daily.
What was
I
that?
explored plant medicine there. It was called the Arts Factory in Byron Bay.
I
It's
know
a
exactly
magical
what you
place.
mean. I thought so. I thought so that it's Arts Factory. I'm like, oh, that sounds like Arts Factory in Byron Bay. Oh, I love this place. That's so cool.
Yeah, that's so funny. It's, to this day, the nearest and dearest places in my heart. I met so many unbelievable people. I, started having the deep conversations about psychology and philosophy and spirituality and all of these topics that had always interested me, but I never really spent time on. And I just tasted real freedom for the first time, like so deeply, so profoundly. And I was like, I can't go back to who I was before. Like nothing else makes sense. Reverting back to who I was doesn't make sense. So that
Byron Bay
started the
does it to
journey. And
people.
yeah,
you know?
yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. If you're ever in, go to the Arts Factory, it's a magical place. Um, but yeah, then I came home and had one more year of college and kind of fell back into that party girl experience. But now my intuition was super strong. So I was getting very clear messages that this is not you. This is not in alignment anymore. You're not meant to be here. You're not meant to be doing this. You are meant to be spreading this wisdom with other people, especially women, because, moving through insecurities and low self worth and eating disorders and all of these things, body hatred and so many things that revolve around womanhood. Um, I just knew that I had to help other women go through these experiences. So after college, I kind of started exploring this journey. I got into breath work. I ended up studying at the Institute of Integrative Nutrition for Holistic Health. Started working with some coaches and therapists and people who showed me somatic healing and embodiment. And yeah, honestly, COVID kind of sparked the whole real journey for me because it was like, there's no time like now to start my own business. I had lost my job because of, everything getting shut down. And yeah, haven't looked back since. And it's been such a beautiful journey. I'm so, not always an easy journey, but so, so, so grateful for all of it.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, I feel like I I can feel what you're saying because like Byron Bay is such a high vibe place. I always met the most amazing, the most conscious and like spiritual people. It's such a strong community and strong vibe there. And this is like the best place in Australia to me. I have a few friends living there, and it's just like I love it there. I spent a month there as well, and like maybe 2 years ago because it was like oh my god personally. But yeah, it's so so amazing that you're awakening in a way started there, because I can really imagine how it could feel for you. So that's really really amazing. um it's so funny that I knew exactly what you're talking about.
The best.
But yeah, I would love to talk about the theme of presence, because I know that you have the master class called the art of being. And I feel like this being, everyone says, oh, just be, but like it's not actually that easy, first of all, to just be, and second of all, I don't think that everyone understands the value of presence and like what it can actually bring into our lives if we just are. And so I would love to touch upon it and just ask you, how do you perceive presence? Like, first of all, like what do you perceive as a value in being present, and also how to get there in a way? I mean, it's like the simplest thing to be, but actually to reach the state of being, pure being, is actually not as simple as it might sound. I mean, simple but not easy. So yeah, how do you see presence and how to get there?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I love this. And, it's something I'm still striving towards every single day. It's a never ending journey. You will never just get there. Like it ebbs and flows, as does everything in life. But I think the value of presence is understanding that anything outside of the present is this construct that isn't actually real. So maybe a societal construct that says, this past version of you or this past experience or these past memories have to still haunt you right now, even though they don't exist anymore. Or this idea of a future that hasn't happened is causing you anxiety or stress or worry, whether it be about what job you're going to get, how much money you're going to make, the right partner for you, where your community is, where you're going to live. So anything outside of the present moment is not real. It's a construct made up by your mind, made up by societal impact, and it doesn't serve you in any way. It's nice that we have memories so we can reflect on our life. It's nice to remember the experiences we've been through. But if you're holding them in your body as though they're still existing now and repeating the cycles and repeating the loops in your mind, it's not serving you in any way. It's probably holding you back. But our minds are complicated and beautifully intelligent, but sometimes to a fault, because they are literally able to experience past sensations in the body as present sensations. So your body can't tell the difference. Same with future. If you're super anxious about how you're going to pay rent next month, even though next month is not happening until it's present in that moment, your body is going to react like that lack of safety, that lack of survival mode is happening right now. So presence is the only thing we have. 5 years ago, that memory that you can't get out of your head, it only happened in that present moment 5 years ago. It doesn't exist anymore. And in 5 months from now, what you're going to be doing with your life, you won't know until it's happening in that present moment. So, really, there's no point in experiencing anything else, visualizing what you want for your future, reflecting on your past to learn from your mistakes and learn from your wins and all the lessons. Beautiful. But anything outside of that is probably holding you back. So I think the two components of presence that are most important are radical acceptance and non attachment. So, one, radical acceptance. Can you be okay with where you're at 100%? Because no one is going to do that for you, and you are the person who's probably self-inflicting this sort of suffering, if you will, where you did something and you've decided it's not okay, or you're not worthy, or your body isn't the way you want it to look, or your skin is bad, or this or that. You have a choice of accepting where you're at, accepting who you are in all your phases and all your forms right here and right now, or you can hold resistance against who you are. And when you hold resistance, you are stopping yourself from the freedom of presence. Because at the end of the day, anything you do, it's okay. We're human. You might make a mistake or do something wrong, but it's all okay. Like, we have the ability to say, I am okay with who I am. I love myself. I'm worthy of my own love. And that's it. I'll move and flow through life with that perspective. So that's the acceptance. And then non attachment is knowing that every single moment, every single experience, every encounter we have, every person we meet is temporary, because we are temporary. In this phase, in this human body, we are temporary. So the more you attach to something, to someone, so let's say a past experience that's haunting you, that you have anxiety over, or a future outcome that you're so worried about or that you desire to have. If you hold attachment towards either of these things, you are stopping yourself from experiencing the freedom of presence, because attachment is essentially resistance to what is, resistance to surrender, resistance to trust. When we open ourselves up to full surrender and trust, we are non attached, and we allow ourselves to experience the present moment as it is happening, and just allowing life to exist as it exists. Because while we have certain controls over our actions, we don't necessarily have control over any outcome. If you hold an attachment to an outcome and it doesn't happen, you're going to experience some negative feelings. If you can hope for things, we can dream, we can wish for things, but if you hold a steady state of non attachment, you're going to feel so much lighter and more connected and open to the endless possibilities and opportunities that this life brings you, because they are endless. But you have to be open to, like, not knowing which outcome is going to happen for you, but knowing that it is happening for you in that divine timing as it is meant to.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. I resonate with literally everything that you said so much, and you just put it sense. But people do, people do. It's like, okay, so beautifully. So thank you so much. But I have a question, because obviously it's easy to say, yeah, just don't be attached.
Yeah.
Yeah, just don't have resistance. I want this partner to be my partner. I want this house. I want this job, or I want this and that. And so, how to actually work with this? It's easier said than done. That's attachment. I mean, what to do to actually be like, okay, I'm okay with whatever, like, because it's not that easy. Let's say like this, So, what would you say to a person that really struggles with detachment, that they really still hold on to things? Maybe they hold on to some relationships or jobs or whatever, go beyond what you're experiencing right now. Then you can open yourself up, whatever gets them security, really, whatever is in their comfort zone, right? Because it's all about, like, if you can go out of your comfort zone and to infinite possibilities, and some of them might be even better than what you wanted, right? But if you are just holding on to what feels safe, what feels good for now, you don't open up. So what would you say to this kind of person?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. And I think this is where somatic healing really ties into this work, because somatic healing is, healing through the lens of the body and through the lens of the nervous system. So your nervous system is going to control so much of the outcomes of your life, of your emotions, of how you react to certain things. So, when you have an attachment to something, your nervous system gets triggered by that outcome or by that person or by that experience. So, if you can work on, let's say you're really attached to this job, you really want it, your nervous system is seeking safety through you getting that job. And if you have that attachment, likely, if you don't get it, your nervous system is going to feel like extremely triggered and paralyzed, because it's not safe anymore. That security from the job was your inner safety. So if you can work on calming your nervous system, this is going to support you so deeply through non-attachment and acceptance. So this can look like shaking, moving, your body, like dancing, breath work. There's different somatic practices that you can do where it's really just a return to a calm nervous system. Because if you can get out of fight or flight and return to that state of, like, parasympathetic nervous system where you're calm and you're rested and you feel safe, there's a much more likely chance that you will not have attachment to an outcome. That even if it doesn't work, and even if you did have an attachment in that moment, it's like, okay, I know I'm safe. So the fact that this didn't work out, maybe it's not ideal, maybe it's not making me happy, but I'm not going to die. My world is not going to crumble. I am not going to cease to exist. So it's okay. And that's, I think, the most effective, if not one of the most effective ways to practice non attachment is to heal your nervous system from getting triggered when things that you were once attached to don't work out as you had hoped.
Emotional about something not happening. I'm just going into this emotion and then the emotion is gone. And then, yeah, absolutely. I find it even in myself. If I get, I don't know, I'm automatically accepting what or whatever. It's just like, okay, it's okay now because I don't feel this because there is no emotional charge behind me not wanting some other reality emotional about it anymore. So that's okay. The whole potential of something else working out for me is open up. And also for me, I feel like the belief that I'm repeating to myself that really helps then is just like the universe has something even better for me. And this is what I say to myself if I really feel like, oh my God, I really want this to happen or I really want that to happen. But for example, I don't know, if I'm late somewhere for the bus that I really wanted to go for like a trip or whatever, right? But it's not happening. I'm like, okay, maybe the universe wants me to do something else. Maybe I'm a light worker, so maybe I need to go to a different place right now. Maybe someone in this shop that I'm gonna buy a water needs my light, or there's so many different moving parts to the whole universe and the whole collective consciousness that we in with our small minds cannot comprehend. So sometimes something else can be of much bigger value to the wholeness than what we might think, even us going somewhere or not going for this trip or not having this partner or not having this job. There might be such a big impact, universally speaking, of this thing not working out for you, quote unquote, because it is actually working out for you, and it always does. It's just that in the moment we might not see it. That said, oh my God, I was so attached to this partner. At that moment, it was like the end of the world that this partner is not ours in this way. We might only see it in the future, right? After it all happened and after it's all said and done. Like, how many people do you know? But now I'm so glad I'm not with this partner anymore. Like there's so many people who say that, but so I feel like this is just a beautiful lesson to remember that the universe always catches us when we fall. It's always there for us and it happens to us and not even more apart from like emotional healing to also just affirming very positively to, and of course if you believe it, because I mean for us, not to us. So yeah, we just need to hold this belief, and I feel like that could also help us accept what is happening. If you don't believe it, you're gonna create even more resistance by higher power that is holding us and that is governing um everything, like divine flow just flowing through us and for resisting this statement. But like to really believe it and to really know that there is a higher. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that because that's what has worked for me in the past. And presence, because how I perceive presence, speaking of which, of this divine power, I feel like there is something else I would like to add to the topic of presence. This I am being some force or universe, or some people say the I am presence. Even I feel like when we can be truly present in the moment, this is when we truly connect to source, whatever you want to call it, right? Because the source is, because everything is, like all that is. So like this is the core of, like, if we can connect to the isness, beingness, to the presence of just this pure I am, this is the place, let's say, like out of lack of a better word for that, or the place or space where you feel this presence. This is where you connect to everything. This is how you can experience source or God or the universe experientially, in a way. That's what I found anyway. When you feel fully present, you can really feel, you can feel not only your soul but also like the source. Because when I found myself in some, for example, psychedelic experiences, when I was like more present than ever before, I could experience, for example, like I would look into mirror and then I would see myself as a different person, or as a different alien, or as a different was able to access embodiment in a different life, parallel life or whatever, because I was so present that our timelines, let's call it, right? Because you're so present that you're able to access the whole time space reality in different let's say other dimensions of reality, because it's all happening now. But if we are constantly going with the mind, if we constantly, I don't know, emotional about something or thinking about something or constantly in our human mind, then we don't allow ourselves to access these other realities and other dimensions and access the pure consciousness, because the pure consciousness is the pure presence. So if we can be fully truly present, and that's what meditation is even anyway. So what would you say on this topic about what I just said? Usually teaches us, or that's what we meditate for, then we can really experience source. That's how I perceive.
Yeah, I actually resonate so deeply with all of that, and something that I wanted to add and kind of continue on with is that when we experience attachment, when we attach to an outcome, we're actually denying ourselves the potential to experience a multitude of other outcomes. Like you said, with source, with the universe, like there is not one path that we are meant to go down. There are endless paths, and we make choices that lead us down different ones. Each choice we make leads us down a slightly different path. So many of these paths are beautiful and profound, not like one's good and the rest are bad. Like they're all perfectly unique for your journey. But if you are attached to one, you are likely closing yourself off from experiencing the potential of the rest of them. And there are limitless opportunities, and the universe is always providing. So when you practice non attachment, you are literally opening yourself up to the potential of endless pathways along your journey, of endless discoveries and potentials and possibilities. And maybe some of them teach you lessons. Maybe some of them help you grow. Maybe some of them are the most exciting and profound and miraculous adventures of your journey. But when you attach to one, you're closing yourself off to all the rest. And then if or when that attached experience doesn't work out, you're left with this like feeling of crumbling, of complete lack of safety. You'll be completely disheveled all over the place because you held on so tightly to this one thing instead of trusting that if that thing was right for you, it would work, because you will not miss what's meant for you no matter what. If something doesn't work out, you need to know and you need to trust that it didn't work out for a reason that is serving your highest alignment. And when you trust that, no matter what, you can't, not you can't, but you likely won't need to feel so attached, because you know that everything that is meant for you is coming your way. Everything that is not meant for you will pass you by, even if it doesn't feel good in the moment. So it's trust and non attachment to the good and the bad, like good and bad, the feelings that feel good to you and the feelings that don't feel so good for you, the experiences that bring you joy and peace and presence and love, and the experiences that make you feel sad and angry. And you know, we have both. We have the dualities of life in everything. So trust that whatever is happening again for you, not to you. And that if something misses you, it was supposed to. Nothing that is meant for you will pass you by. That is such an important mantra to live by.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. Yeah, when you were speaking, I was just thinking of all these ways that I am attached sometimes when I get attached to something exciting happening in my life. And then if it doesn't happen, I'm disappointed or something. And I feel like for me, what helps as well is this openness to feel everything. And I think that somatic work or shadow work that I do, any kind of like body work where you release emotions helps with that, helps with this acceptance of anything. Because if you can accept having any emotional reaction and just being okay with any feeling, whether good or bad, then it's way easier to accept just any condition in your life, because then you're like, okay, I'm open to be disappointed, I'm open to be sad, like, because I don't have a problem with being disappointed from time to time. I'm just gonna go into the disappointment, come back to my childhood trauma, release it all, get a little sad, maybe cry it out a little bit, and then I'm sweet after an hour max or something like that, sometimes a little longer. But if I am accepting and I invite all the experiences, all the emotions, all the feelings that are out there to my life, and I'm okay with them, then also it's like helping with this radical acceptance and with this non-attachment, because then you're like, okay, I'm not even attached to feeling positive. I'm not even attached to that. I'm just like open to feeling anything. And then the kind of like inner peace can come as a result of that, because then you're like, okay, I'm fine with whatever happens. And I feel like so many people associate this inner peace or inner joy with the lack of negativity in their lives. But it's not like that at all. It's like the peace comes when you can accept and be okay with anything that happens, because there's always going to be shit happening. There's always going to be some kind of war somewhere, probably. I mean, maybe not in some time, because we are entering a new earth, raising vibration, new generations are coming, so maybe not in the future. But right now there's probably going to be some shit happening all over the world. And if you were to, like, be against it all the time, be resistant to that, then, like, you could spend your whole life just suffering for the suffering of the world. But if you can just accept that things are as they are, and also accept whenever you feel sad for people who are at war, or when you're open to experiencing it, then this sense of peace can really come as a result of that. And I feel like that's such an important thing to talk about, because people resist negativity so much, but there is actually nothing wrong about it.
Yeah, yeah, we really need to understand that our dualities are super important and necessary, and we're not supposed to feel happy and excited and filled with joy all the time, because we need to experience balance in our lives. Or, who knows if balance is actually attainable, but striving to experience some sort of homeostasis within our lives. And appreciating and accepting and acknowledging that the more negative or negatively associated emotions like anger, sadness, grief, anxiety, all of these feelings, they're not bad. They're not wrong. You don't need to run from them. You don't need to push them aside or deny them. But if you can love them just as much as your highest moments, you're going to move through them with much greater ease. And it's another point to non attachment. Like, don't attach to the fact that you're sad, just let yourself be sad. When you attach to the fact that you're sad and you create a story around being sad, you'll likely stay sad for much longer. Or you can just say, okay, I'm experiencing feelings of sadness. Let's feel them. They're not bad. They're not wrong. They're not who I am at my core. They're just feelings. You don't need to attach a story to every feeling. So it's like, don't attach the story. Don't attach anything. Just let it be, exist, experience, feel, move through. That's how we move forward. Attachment is resistance, always.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like the more you are actually allowing all these negative emotions to come up for you, the less of them you experience. Because if you can go into them as deeply as you possibly can and actually let them out of your body, you're gonna have less and less of this negativity in yourself, less and less childhood programming in your body, right? You're gonna have just less energy causing you to feel like shit in your body, because you are allowing all of that to be expressed. So then naturally you're gonna feel more joy and more excitement in your life, more happiness and so on. But not from the place of like, oh, I need to feel happy, I need to feel joyful because someone in the secret or law of attraction book said that I only need to feel positive to attract what I want in my life, so now I'm just gonna suppress all the negative shit. No, it's just not like that. We need to, of course, focus positively when we can,
Right.
and that's great. But not just suppressing and denying and disowning all these negative parts of us, because they are just showing us what is there to heal. It's like they are knocking to our door. Hello, there's still some healing that needs to happen here. There are some feelings that need to be felt, and so it's actually beautiful when we can go into them. And especially, like, I found that sometimes when I do the shadow work, or inner child work with some people, with my friends, I kind of feel like even closer to them when I really can feel like they trust me to hold space for them, like they can go really deeply into their emotions, or like with anyone. It's actually deepening our connection when we can be vulnerable next to each other, when we can go deep into our emotions, and when we trust this other person to hold us when we are in very dark places. Not only because it's easy to connect with people and to be okay when we are all in the light parts of us, but if we are going into the darkness, it actually can deepen our connection so much with the other person if we are able to hold space for each other and just trust that this person is going to hold you. So I actually find it quite building in a way for relationships. I'm not sure if you found it the same way.
100%. I think there's, yeah, that deepening and that trusting and allowing ourselves to be vulnerable with one another is so, so, so important. Like, I feel that such a big piece of this work is sharing with others that they are safe to express, that they are safe to feel their feelings, that they are safe to move through uncomfortable emotions and not hide from them. And getting to do this work is so profound because innately we are just supposed to be feeling, supposed to express freely. Like there isn't supposed to be a lapse or between what we desire and when we go act on it. But our ego gets in the way, or our past trauma or these experiences gets in the way, where it's like, this is what I want to do, or this is what I desire. But before I go do it, let me like think about it. Let me make sure I feel safe doing it. Let me make sure no one's going to judge me. Let me make sure I'm not judging myself. Am I worthy of this? Does this make sense? Am I going to fail? Like we have this space between, and it's, I feel like it's the root of a lot of our suffering, is that we don't just allow ourselves to go do what we want to do, feel what we want to feel, be how we want to be, because we have this inner critic in the form of trauma, in the form of limiting beliefs, in the form of these different variables that stops us from expressing ourselves, and that stops us from feeling ourselves in whatever way we need to feel. And moving through that and supporting others through moving through that is so powerful, because no one's, no one's going to do it for you. No one's going to tell you, like, express yourself. And you're just going to be like, okay, you have to decide for yourself to, like you have to decide for yourself. We can, as coaches and healers and guides, we can support you through your journey, but nobody's going to make the decision for you. You have to decide for yourself. And it's so funny because we get so focused on other people's perceptions of us, when in reality, think about how much time you spend thinking about your own problems. Like, you don't have enough time in the day to be thinking about other people's problems because you're so consumed by your own. But when it comes to the idea of other people perceiving you, we get so convinced that everyone's like eyes are on us, that we're being judged, that we're being watched, that we can't do anything without being perceived by other people. So, like, beautiful reminder that no one cares, in the nicest way. No one gives a shit about what you're doing. And, the few people that care really probably don't like themselves or have a lot of healing to do. Nobody who loves themselves is going to judge you. Nobody who actually loves themselves is going to care what you're doing with your time or how you express. Someone who truly loves themselves is going to honor the fact that you are expressing yourself, that you are connected to yourself. So just having a perspective shift and focusing on that, like, first of all, nobody cares what I do, so why don't I just do what I want to do? Second, if anyone does care about what I'm doing, it has nothing to do with me. So the only reason I'm not expressing myself fully, the only reason I'm holding myself back, the only reason I'm experiencing limitations is because I've inflicted them upon myself. So if I can start to recognize that this is all self inflicted and that I am the only person who can move through this for me, it's so liberating, because that gives you all the power. And we have all the power for our own growth, for our own healing, for our own deep success and abundance and prosperity. We just have to decide that we are willing and motivated enough to move through that.
Beautiful. That's so beautifully said. Thank you so much. That's really, really amazing. And that brings me to the next topic that I wanted to touch upon with you, which is self sabotage, because I know that you help people release the self sabotaging patterns. And I'm super curious to know your perspective, because one of the videos of my mentor, number one mentor, Teal Swan, not sure if you're familiar with her, but she taught me the method completion process that I'm using for shadow work and also parts work and so on. She has this video called "There is no such thing as self-sabotage," and I will just explain what she means more or less, because like self-sabotage is just a very general idea of how people express or define the pattern that is happening, where okay, so we want something but then we actually don't do it, or we might procrastinate, or we want to smoke cigarettes, quit smoking cigarettes, but then we still do, or and so on, right? And so from her perspective, it's like there is no self sabotage because there are only parts of us that have different needs, different roles, different values, and different idea of what is safe and good and the best for us. So it's not really self sabotage. It's just that these parts are disintegrated. They don't know that they want actually the same thing, which is the best for you as a person, right? And then there are so many fragments of us, like multiple personalities within each of us, that each of these personalities has a different role and need and idea. So then if they have different ideas about what needs to be done for your happiness, then they go separate separate ways, and then they actually create the opposition. So then you can call it a self-sabotage because it feels like it's a self-sabotage, but actually it's just a disintegration between these parts, and maybe your lack of awareness of what these parts want and how they feel and how to actually bring them what they need in the most healthy ways. Because the thing is that if we suppress some of them and they are just governing us and meeting their needs in a anyway, then a lot of these needs that they are meeting are unhealthy, met in very unhealthy way. Like for example, smoking cigarettes. Like I've done parts work on one of my clients, and her willingness to smoke cigarettes was kind of like a rebellious act of anger, so for example, and the part of actually when we did parts work, none of these parts wanted to actually smoke, but this one part didn't know how else to express this rage and this rebelliousness. So then of course, we talked to these parts and so on. And so having said all that, what do you think about this idea of like actually self-sabotage not really being there in this kind of context?
I think in this context, I love that. I love that idea. And I think, we give a lot of meaning to words. So self sabotage, you can kind of decide for yourself what that word means. And when you express it like this, I agree with you. I do think it exists in some forms, but it doesn't need to be labeled as tightly as it is. So, in my perspective, I just feel like it ties into this idea of self trust and self worth. So, you deciding, I agree with this separate parts, not knowing, all these parts want to do this one thing, but this one part is disconnected in some way through trauma, through anger, through these different emotions. So it doesn't know how to integrate with these other parts that want something. But on the other hand, there's experiences we go through where we say we're going to do, we speak something out loud. Our words are like spells. The words we speak to ourselves carry so much weight. So let's say we have this desire, we speak this word, I am going to do this, and then we go against our word for whatever reason. And it's not bad, it's not wrong. But going against our word is like a disconnect from trust with ourselves. So I think healing through self sabotage, whether you call it that or not, is learning what the reason is behind a lack of worth for yourself. So, why? What piece is missing here that I don't feel worthy of keeping my word to myself? So, it kind of is like a different version of what you said. So, there's something missing, and I usually think it equates to some worthiness or some disconnection from self that is stopping me from keeping my word to myself, from trusting myself, and from moving forward with my own boundaries. So then moving through whatever experience, whether it be shadow work, inner child, somatic healing, to understand the root cause of this disconnect from your own trust, from yourself, from this boundary that you wanted to keep. So, you know, again, the human experience is interesting with words because we label them certain ways, but I actually find that the way I consider self sabotage and move through it and help people move through it is quite similar to the way you just described it, whether or not you use that word to describe it or not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I still think that we can actually describe it in this way because, like, I mean, this is the general idea that people have, and then it's not. I mean, because this is all parts of ourselves that go one way and then go the opposite way. So it's kind of like, yeah, you can call it self sabotage, but you can also call it like no self sabotage. It's just self, just parts of self, just going different directions, right? So, what would you say to someone who struggles with that, who maybe is still in this, let's say, self sabotage pattern and they don't know how to move out of it? Like, are there any practices that you recommend or any specific methods that you would say that work the best?
I think for this, shadow work is such a go to. So asking yourself, what parts of me have I not accepted? What parts of me am I ashamed of? What parts of me um, have I not allowed my self worth to flourish in? So, where do I, and there's so many practices for going through the shadow, different shadow meditations. I have a ton of prompts that I like to use, but I really think digging deep within your subconscious mind and asking yourself and getting to the root of what parts of me am I not okay with? Like, what parts of me do I have self-hatred for, or disgust, or deep shame, or deep guilt, or judgment towards? Because if you can uproot those and understand why they're there in the first place, you are going to create so much more room for love. Because when
Mm.
you actually, like, it's all back to acceptance. When you fully accept yourself, you wouldn't experience sabotage, because you know that when you do something, you did it for a reason. And when you didn't do something, you did it for a reason. So there is no sabotage. The sabotage, I feel, comes from when you say you're going to do something, you don't do it, and then you carry deep guilt, shame, and judgment towards yourself for not doing it. So, we're not perfect. Like, you say you want to go to the gym 5 times this week, you go 3. There's no sabotage there if you're okay with it. But I feel the sabotage piece is you going down this cycle of, I'm not worthy now because I didn't listen to myself. I judge myself, I shame myself, I'm filled with guilt, I'm not worthy because I didn't do those things. And now, because I'm experiencing these feelings, I'm probably just going to stop going to the gym altogether. Or, now that I didn't do it this time, I'm never going to be able to do it again. I suck. This is terrible. Blah, 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 So it's not that you need to stick to your word all the time. It's that you need to be accepting of when you do and when you don't. So I think that's a really important piece.
Mm. And how to find this beautiful balance? Because some people can be like, okay, so I'm gonna go to the gym 5 times a week, but then, oh, I'm just gonna go once. Oh, if I don't go for 2 weeks, that's okay. Like, and then they completely lose themselves in like acceptance of anything, but then they lose motivation as well. So, how to find this beautiful balance between actually accepting if you don't do something, but actually still being driven to work on yourself in whichever way it is.
Yeah, and I think this is like the journey we're all on: self-discipline versus compassion, when to use self-discipline, when to use compassion. I don't know if I can give a full answer on this yet, because it is a lifelong journey and it is so unique to each person. And it's really returning to, like, how deeply can I understand myself? Because the more you know your intuition, the more you trust your intuition, the more you can identify with and understand when your ego is at play, the better you'll be able to decipher between when you're being compassionate or when you're being, like, a little lazy, or when you're being disciplined or when you're being just way too hard on yourself. So it's hard. I can't give one set answer on that, but it's always, for me, tune within, learn to understand yourself better, get better with your cues, regulate your nervous system so you're not in fight or flight when you're understanding these processes. Finding safety within your body is going to make you better understand when your ego is at play and when your heart and your soul and your intuition are at play. So it's a balance that is maybe possible to find, maybe not. Uh, But my recommendation would just be to explore it, to take note and be mindful and aware of when you have interactions with yourself like this. Start to identify with egoic patterns versus intuitive patterns, and be gentle with the process, because it's not easy. Humans, being a human, the human experience is really challenging. So, as we know, it's beautiful and incredibly miraculous, but it's really challenging. So, overall, like, I would say compassion is should be at the forefront of everything. But if you're catching yourself in a pattern of, I'm just going to be gentle with myself, and not doing any of the things you want to get done, maybe that's a point of reconsideration of, okay, what does this mean about me that I'm not doing any of the things I keep saying I'm going to do? Returning to that place of, where do I not feel worthy? What am I holding underneath the surface? And then, a pretty good teller of, when you're over disciplined, is burnout. If you catch yourself in experiences of burnout where you get really excited about doing something, you go all in, and then you're like, I can't anymore, I don't want to be near it. That's often a pretty good sign that you are overworking yourself. So finding, balance is such an interesting word for me, because it's so hard to attain. Your balance is going to change every single day, every single minute. But just trying to find some equilibrium in your life around these two pieces, I think, is super important.
Beautiful. And balance, I feel like it's not just being in one place, because even if you, for example, do like a yoga pose on one leg, balance is like constantly kind of being wobbly between right and left, and you're never really like fully stable there in like one
Thrive.
place. You're always kind of moving a little bit here and there, but you're kind of in the middle for the whole time. So I feel like this is the real balance, when you can just balance it out all the time, because it's gonna go one or the other way. But if you can and I find, as you say, equilibrium in a way, in the middle way, but just wobble a little bit, then I think that that's going to be really, really good. And yeah, I fully agree with everything that you said. And also, I feel like we can draw a full circle here, because to me, the presence is the key to also know where you are going one or two or the second direction too much. Because if you can be present, you can really attune to your soul. If you can attune to your soul, it will tell you, your intuition will tell you whether you're overworking yourself, or whether it's too much, or whether, if you're lazy on the sofa for a week, then at some point your intuition will tell you, maybe you can do this, maybe you can do this. And then if you don't listen to it, then there's going to be some resistance in your body, because you're not aligned with what your essence truly wants you to do. And also, if you're like working too much and you don't even have space, for example, for friendships, or for other things, or for health, or for anything else, then also your intuition will tell you, hey, maybe you will stop, maybe you can take a rest, maybe you can eat healthier, maybe you can, and so on. And again, if you don't follow it, you're also going to feel resistance, because you're going to be misaligned with your true essence. So I feel like if you can meditate, and through meditation really connect to your soul, connect to your higher guidance, in these moments you will know when you're exaggerating in one or the other direction, because it's like you're going to feel it in your body as resistance. And of course, like sometimes we can feel resistance in terms of like fear of unknown, if we want to do something new, like launch a new project or something. And that is a different type of resistance that I'm talking about. Like we can feel some fears sometimes, but if we are intuitively guided to do something anyway, we're gonna find that, okay, maybe I'm afraid of it, but I still feel like this pull, and my intuition tells me that this is the best thing to do, and the best way for me to go. So I feel like being present and really meditation, um preferably daily for these, a few minutes, can also help us really grow this connection with our higher self. And then we don't even need to wonder about whether it's good for us or not, because we can just stop, be present, ask ourselves, ask our soul for guidance, and then we are directed in the best way possible. That's what I at least found in my life.
No, yeah, I completely agree with all of that. And, yeah, I think everything is a return to presence, like every other piece of our lives comes from being right here, right now. Because if you're in the past or you're in the future, you're not experiencing what's happening right now. And the body, the mind, the spirit, the heart, all of it happening right now. Even if it doesn't feel like that, even if you are stuck in past experiences or whatever's happening to you, all we have is now. And everything stems from being here in this moment with yourself. And then the journey unfolds from that place. So, yeah, I think it's probably the most important thing we can understand about ourselves is that all we have is right now.
Yes, absolutely. And if we always chase the future, or think about the past, we are never really truly experiencing life to the fullest. And it's actually pretty interesting, because that's what I was talking to my business partner the other day, because he has a personality of an achiever. And he's like, so when do I actually get this end result, when all my beliefs are done? Because like he's like, oh, again, I need to work on this belief of like worthiness. And I'm like, yeah, because you're gonna probably have to work on this belief till the end of your life, because there are always gonna be some areas, some little things that are gonna make you feel unworthy. But he's like, yeah, but what about the end result? Like, when do I actually heal? And I'm like, oh, sorry to say, but there is no end result. You cannot actually heal fully, because there is so many things in your life that has happened that maybe in this life you're not going to heal. Maybe it's going to take you a few lifetimes to heal everything. But that's the beauty of it, because if we just came healed, like we probably wouldn't be on Earth. If we just wanted to live a healed life, we would be on a different planet, because apparently Earth is like the hardest lesson to hardest I don't know, not to the pill to swallow, or whatever, however you say it in English. But yeah, it
Yeah.
was just so funny to say, because I'm like, if you always look for this end result, always look for, okay, when I'm going to be done with this, then you never truly can be happy and joyful in the moment, never can be truly fulfilled right now, because you're always in the future, or as you said, in the past, and then you're never truly happy because you're never experiencing this present moment 100%. And there is so much to experience in this present moment, so many feelings to feel in this present moment, so many things to see, to smell, to hear, just to experience as a human. So I just feel like it's such an important topic to talk about, and I'm super super grateful that we talked about it here, because yeah, I just feel like it's amazing, and we need to bring this message to people to remember to just be here and now. And it can be such a rewarding, such a freeing experience for each of us.
Yeah, 100%. And recognizing that it's not always easy and that it's a lifelong journey and that you're never just going to be healed one day, but that with devotion to yourself and to your path, even in the smallest forms, you're going to make your life that much more meaningful. Like, you get out of this experience what you put into it, and we all have the opportunity to put in everything towards ourselves and towards our growth and towards our healing. So, looking at it as an exciting opportunity to understand yourself better every single day, never needing to let a setback or a lesson stop you from growing or stop you from continuing to learn more about yourself. It's really just a beautiful, never ending journey that we get to go on.
Yeah, and there is always room for improvement, even more for progress. And now I don't see it like, okay, when am I gonna heal my abandonment wound? Oh my God, it came again. Oh, I've been healing it for the last 2 years, and when is it gonna end? It's like, oh wow, exciting! I'm gonna feel even better after I heal this trauma. That's great, because my life is gonna skyrocket even more, and this whole filter of reality of I'm abandoned is gonna be lifted off, and then I'm gonna feel even better. So I feel like we can really have a positive approach to all that. So yeah, that's what I'm presenting to people, because I know that on my healing journey, when I learned all these methods of shadow work and whatever, I'm like, oh my freaking God, it's gonna take me ages to get where I want to be. But now I have a completely different perspective. It's like, oh yeah, exciting, I'm triggered again, yes, I'm gonna go through some stuff, and now I'm gonna feel even better in my life. So I think that's a really nice perspective to have now after a few years of doing this work. Finally.
Yeah, no, completely. And also, like, just knowing that there's nowhere to be. Like, have your goals, have your visions, have your dreams, but there is nowhere to be. You just get to be now, and whatever comes out of that is going to come out of that, and it'll unfold beautifully in the unique way it's meant to for you. But there's nowhere to be but right now. So that's pretty
Mm.
exciting.
Thank you so much. And this is such a beautiful sentence to finish our conversation with. But I have one little question to you. And where could people find you if they would love to work with you? Would they really vibe with you? What's the best way?
Yeah, so you'll find everything on my Instagram. It's at Emma Marschall, EMMAMARSCHALL. My link tree is in there to my website, to my one on ones, breathwork, courses, so on and so forth. So you can find me there.
Beautiful. Thank you so, so much, Emma, for sharing yourself with us and for sharing all that. I feel like this conversation has brought me a lot of value, and I'm sure to all of our listeners as well. So I'm super, super grateful. Thank you so much.
Of course, thank you so much for having me. This has been beautiful.
Mhm.